what actually happens after an I-130 petition gets approved? There seems to be a lot of confusion about what happens after an I-130 petition gets approved. So let's go through two different scenarios and discuss what the possible outcomes can be. Let me start by saying, spoiler, nothing happens after an I-130 gets approved. I-130s by themselves do not offer immigration benefits. But let's explain what that actually means by going through two different scenarios. So scenario one, you're filing a petition for your spouse who's residing abroad and they have no way to legally enter the US. They don't have a tourist visa or student visa. They're not from a country that's a visa waiver program country like the UK. People from visa waiver countries can enter the US on something called ESTA without formally applying for a tourist visa from the US Embassy or consulate. So you have no way for your spouse to enter the US. You want to file a family petition for them after you get married. So you file the I-130 family petition, a year or so passes and it gets approved. And you want to know what happens next. Well, the I-130 by itself did not offer any immigration benefit. It was a prerequisite for the next steps. So in this scenario, the next step would be you would receive an email or a letter from the National Visa Center having your case login info and your invoice ID number. And then you would log in to the National Visa Center's website, fill some stuff out, upload some stuff, pay some money, and then eventually, if the case looks good, it'll get transferred to the consulate. And then your spouse will have to attend an interview at the consulate. To make a long story short, if everything goes well, then they get a visa that allows them to enter the US as a permanent resident. The day they enter the US with that visa is the day they become a green card holder. Although they still need to pay another fee and the card physically needs to be produced and mailed to your house. That'll take like 120 days. But technically speaking, they will have become a permanent resident on the day that they entered the US using that visa. Let's take another scenario. Let's say you're filing a petition for your sibling who's residing abroad. Well, if you've been watching my other videos, you know that that's going to take a minimum of 16 years. I sigh because it's depressing and kind of funny at the same time because it's so ridiculous. Who would ever wait that long? When people say enter the US legally, what they're really saying is wait 16 years for the off chance that you can enter using a sibling petition. In that scenario, after the I-130 gets approved, nothing will happen. You're going to need to wait until those 16 years have passed from the day you filed the I-130 until the day that the visa becomes current. After around 16 years, then you can continue with the National Visa Center process, and then eventually your sibling and their spouse and kids can go to the consulate for the interview. Let's go through another scenario. Let's say you're filing another petition for your spouse. Except this time, your spouse is in the US without status, but they entered legally. So they entered with a tourist visa years ago, they overstayed, and now they're unlawfully present in the United States, and you file an I-130 family petition for them as their US citizen spouse. First of all, I recently did a video about how I don't recommend filing only an I-130 in this scenario because they might be eligible for an I-485, a green card application, all in one step, filed concurrently with the I-130, but that's beyond the scope of this video. Let's say you want to just file an I-130 for them. So you get married and you want to file an I-130 for your spouse who is in the US. What happens after it gets approved? Nothing. Nothing happens. You'll get the approval notice and then nothing will happen after that because you haven't actually applied for an immigration benefit. The I-130 is a prerequisite for an immigration benefit. So before you file the green card application, which is the goal here, to become a permanent resident, you need to prove that you're eligible for permanent residence. And one of the ways to do that is through an approved family petition, an approved I-130 petition. So in that scenario, if you're not going to file both of those forms at the same time and you want to file the I-130 first, once the I-130 gets approved, then you would need to file other applications for actual immigration benefits. If you just get married and you don't file any immigration forms, nothing's gonna happen. Your spouse will continue to be unlawfully present in the US. If you only file an I-130 and you don't file anything else after that, nothing's gonna happen. Your spouse is gonna continue to be unlawfully present in the United States. And by the way, they will have no protections from deportation. So it's important for you to understand when your spouse is eligible to file the I-485, the green card application. Because once you have an I-485 pending, there might be some semblance of protection from ICE enforcement actions. If you have an I-130 pending and ICE tries to detain you in the US, there's a good chance that merely having an I-130 pending is not going to sway them or convince them to release you and allow you to play the process out with USCIS. But if you have a valid I-485 application, a green card application pending, then the answer is it might make a difference. Not guaranteed. Depends on a ton of different variables. I've made another video on this recently, but it might offer some protection. Let me give you a quick example. During Trump's last presidency in 2017, I had this happen twice. I'll go through one of the scenarios. So I had a woman who was here from Afghanistan, and she entered the US using a tourist visa, and she married her US citizen spouse. And after they married, they did nothing. They just thought that they were good. Because she's now married to a US citizen and she entered legally, they thought that she can just, go on living her merry life in the US. But actually, ICE had a different opinion. ICE sent her a letter like 8 months after she overstayed her tourist visa saying, hey, we want to talk to you. Please bring your passport and your suitcase down to our office in New York City. We want to have a conversation. And so obviously, if she went there to have that conversation, there was a big risk that she wasn't going to be leaving that room, at least not voluntarily. So what I did was I contacted ICE and I said, look, she is married to a US citizen. She's eligible for a green card. She hired me to apply for the green card. We just submitted the application. Can you please not target my client? And the ICE officer very politely told me, look, if you can show me that she has an adjustment of status application pending within the next 2 weeks, then we will take her off our list. We'll still give her a notice to appear in immigration court because we have to serve her with the document, but I will not file it with the immigration court to begin her removal from the United States if you show me that she has a green card application pending. So from that, my understanding is that a green card application pending deprioritizes you with ICE. Again, this depends on a ton of different variables, but generally speaking, I would recommend applying for a green card as early as possible if you're eligible, because it might offer some protections against ICE enforcement actions. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of today's video. I know it got a little bit complicated today. If you have any questions, feel free to schedule a consultation directly with me. You can find my contact information in the video description below. If you're interested in family-based immigration or you want to learn more, you could always contact me, or better yet, subscribe to my channel because I put out videos several times a week on family-based immigration, naturalization, immigration court, and changes to immigration policies under Trump. If you're interested in any of these topics, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for another video.